So now we're going to start with public to be heard, and this is for items that are not on the agenda, and we've been monitoring the time, right?
Sure.
All right. All right, Chuck, your hand was the tallest to start with.
Chuck Lacey, Jericho Center, 25 miles an hour. Formed the housing committee for the purpose of advising you and making recommendations on housing issues. A diverse body worked very hard to put together a consensus set of issues in the summer of 2023, which we delivered to you and really didn't hear back. You have a new set of recommendations towards the end of this summer that SJ presented to you. In some, it asks you to address and reconsider the longstanding your town policy of reserving 86% of town for the wealthy and attempting to concentrate people with middle and modest incomes in a very small area. My hope is, or I guess I'm asking you, when and how you're going to be responding to the housing committee for these recommendations. I also, for your convenience, printed out the slides with specific recommendations from SJ's presentation that I can leave you with. What is your plan for responding to the housing committee this time?
We're working with the planning commission on the prioritization of the bylaws and stuff that were presented by the Affordable Housing Committee. In terms of where you want to have people, if you've been paying attention to the state is encouraging development to be in the denser areas because one, it's more affordable. Two,
So this is not part of my 3 minutes. I'm eager to hear it.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. But you asked when we're going to do it, so I am answering you. And this is what we're working on currently.
Catherine, you have shown that you would rather see single-family homes of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 square
It is
feet
not.
in- than a triplex with 3 500 square foot apartments. In your definition of development, enormous single-family homes don't count, but somehow small triplexes are a community hazard, an insult to our character that needs to be avoided. And these recommendations are asking you to reconsider that. My second
I will
question
tell you
is,
one more time, the planning commission has to make that in the zoning before it can happen. And
I understand that, but you can respond to the housing committee that you are instructing the planning commission to either do it or look at it. But you need to reach your own conclusions on our recommendations and respond to the housing committee. Okay, you formed a committee specifically to give you recommendations. You did not respond to the ones you received in 2023. And I believe if you're going to form a committee and ask for recommendations, you need to respond to that committee after they put in months of effort trying to reach consensus among a diverse group that you created. The second thing is, I'm wondering where the report is on wastewater.
you want to answer that, Paula?
The engineer contacted me and he's not done with it yet.
The contract is with Du Bois and King. It's not with the engineer. Have you spoken with the management of Du Bois King and said that it's ridiculous that it takes more than 2 years to do a feasibility study for the 4th time in 50 years? Or are you getting exactly what you want, which is interminable delays?
No.
Who is speaking with the management of Du Bois King? Are you somebody telling Du Bois King that you are not going to get further engineering from us? Because if it takes 2.5 years to do this feasibility study, there's no way the town can work with you and meet anything related to the town plan on full-scale engineering. The final thing is, so I encourage you to do that. I mean, this is ridiculous. And our contract is not with this individual engineer, it's with the engineering firm. And where are you in removing section 5.6, which intentionally doubles the land required for a triplex and intentionally makes it more expensive? It's a poison pill designed to prevent multifamily housing even where it's permitted. Where are you in removing that?
Talk to the planning commission.
I'm asking
We
you.
are working with the planning.
You are
commission.
responsible.
We are
Yes.
working on the
But there
planning
is the
commission on their
process.
priorities. And that is a priority
Yes.
that I have personally.
And when will it be? This is not hard. You form a hearing, I mean, this could be an isolated thing. You just do it. When you have a developer who wants to build fourplexes where you say you want them, and you won't lift a finger to make it possible for him to do it.
We are talking with the planning commission. It is up to them to start the public hearing process, not us. That is the rules.
Okay, you are instructing them to remove this?
We have set I believe what you're talking about is that density table. I'm not good with the numbers in the name.
Yes, it's the density table that
We
requires.
have talked to them about that being a priority of the.
Right, so where you have named people, you've given people permission to build a small triplex, okay, which is only in a very small area of Jericho, you also requiring that they have double the acreage for a triplex. So someone can build a 60,000 square foot single family home on 3 acres, but they need 6 acres to build a 1,500 square foot triplex. It's been in the, Catherine, you have known this, that it was in there. This is a one-off item that you can fix. Okay, this is easy,
But
and you have a
my
developer.
understanding of the regulations is that still requires all of the hoops that we have to jump, including a public hearing, including.
So
all
when is
the
a public hearing?
That we are working with the planning commission on a lot of these priorities.
And what deadline have you given them on this one?
We haven't given any deadlines, but we have a meeting with them coming up
We're calling
next week to talk exactly about this.
all these different issues. That's why we're having work. Thank you for your comment.
Hi,
Yes, okay.
all right. So I'm Beth Bemis, 87 Old Pump
Yeah.
Road. And I did send a couple of emails because I think we're changing topic here from housing to parking signs, but we're also going to talk about road safety at the end of Old Pump Road. So I personally really like Palmer Maple. I also feel that the parking situation at the end of our road is dangerous. Both things can be true at the same time. I like having a business there that succeeds. I don't like the idea that customers will park in a lane on Old Pump Road, stop traffic. Their passengers will get out from the car, go over and order ice cream, blocking the traveled road. I have gone around them carefully and have had people run right in front of me. I don't want to hit anybody. They back out of their parking spaces without looking. They think it's a Hannaford parking lot. People cross the roads at all different points with little children walking down the middle of the road while traffic is trying to come by. I wish that the town would set up a way to enforce our existing traffic laws. People are not supposed to block traffic traveled ways. They park on the side of the road so that they're parked halfway out in the middle of the road. I know the select board has been trying to deal with this, but I'm really unhappy with having signs in our yard because that is fixing a problem that has never occurred. I've lived there since my daughter was 3 months old. She's 38 now. We have never had a problem with parking on our side of the road. The problem is on the other side of the road, parking where they're out in the middle of the traveled way. It has also prevented us now from having our company and our friends and family park in front of our house on our lawn because there's a big no parking sign. You will get towed and fined. And that's, to me, it's a dirt road. It's a small town with a dirt road. We should not be prohibited from having our family park in front of our mailbox. The signs right now prohibit that. One sign was put in my neighbor's yard blocking access to his septic system. So he's got a sign. If he has a septic problem in the middle of the winter, the town gonna come and remove that sign? So I feel a little offended that the town put signs on our side of the road without really considering our point of view and without listening to our account of the problem. Because the problem is there needs to be municipal parking somehow for Palmer. Maybe there could be signs that say this is a public road. Don't block the public road. Don't park in the public road. Overflow parking at the school. Don't park past a certain point, and then maybe enforce it. There's plenty of parking at the school that's available during the time that Palmer has a lot of customers. It's in the evenings and it's the weekends. There's lots of parking at the school. If there was a way for the town to put up official signs that let people know that if they block the road or they they park out in the road or they stop in the road, they're going to get a ticket. They'll then move over to the school. Palmer's will be able to have parking for their business, and we'll be able to have a road that isn't blocked by big trucks while people stop and go get their greens. People will stop in front of the stop sign. We're waiting to make a turn to get off our road. That's where they park. Nobody stops them. So anyway, that's my feeling. I would really, really, really like those signs. They're ugly, they serve no purpose, and they take up our otherwise small lawn, and they destroy the rural area of our homes. Nobody who has a sign wants it.
Thank you for your comments. I will say one thing about the signage. The reason this started was an event in May where both sides of the road were blocked by cars.
Put it on the other side of the road.
So that the
But
support,
that's not gonna help.
That's
If
not
you put
gonna-
them on the other side of the road, then they're gonna park on your side of the road.
exactly.
If they
And
should
so,
be parking
but
anywhere
what
there.
I was going to
that part,
say
yeah.
though is
Okay.
the
Yeah.
state police on that day recommended that we put signs on the residential side of the road so that, because that's the best way to keep that one lane open for public safety vehicles. We are working with the Palmers. We're hoping to have some more effect before the next season starts. Should have, or were to put up a sign that said overflow parking is at the school. And we had put a no parking sign, except for unloading and loading by the stop sign.
Well, I appreciate you taking the officer's direction, but that's not really a traffic study. That's not anything that addresses the real problem, and everybody who lives there knows that. Maybe he came down one time and said, well, don't let people park on our side of the road. That is never a problem. People park on the other side of the road where, because the land drops off, they can't get off the road. They park in a traveled lane. We have family or guests. They park in front of our house and they park off the road. They don't block traffic.
I understand, so I understand the frustration of the signs, and I gotta admit, I'm starting to run out of options. I don't see what options we have as a select board. Yes, we can pull those signs out, maybe, I don't know if we're gonna agree to do
Please
that.
do.
I don't know if that's the right answer.
It is the
So
right answer.
let's say we did it.
Yeah,
What's the answer? We're not building a municipal parking lot. We don't have there's no place to build a municipal parking lot. We've asked Palmer's to I've been saying
Yeah.
since we've started getting yelled at about this
Yeah.
2 years ago,
yeah.
please have them park at the school.
Right.
There's a crosswalk with a
Yeah,
button that you
right.
can, I've been saying that. People aren't doing it. People are lazy. They're not gonna do it. I think the only solution you're asking for is for us to shut down Palmer's. And I think we
No,
need to
no.
just say that and
No.
stop pretending that we
Well,
all
don't
like
put words in
business
my
there,
mouth.
because we
Don't
don't.
put words in my mouth.
That's the only option we have, is to close down Palmer's.
No,
I don't
no,
see
actually,
any other
respectfully,
solution.
that is not the only option.
Then
You
what,
could-
then what?
well, first of all, you
We're
could
not
enforce-
doing municipal park. So
You
what's
could
next?
enforce the traffic laws that exist. You could give a ticket to the people who stop in the middle of the road while their kids get out of the car and they go and they get their ice cream. There were kids parked on the other side of the road, though, the east side of the road last weekend. They pulled out their lawn chairs. They were there in the middle of the road with their lawn chairs eating ice cream. Had I thought about it, I would have asked them, are they trying to save their parents' college tuition? Because it was a very dangerous place for them to be. Enforce the traffic laws that exist. That was a violation of the traffic laws. Start letting people know that if they park in the middle of the road, they're going to get a ticket. If they do a U-turn in the middle of the road, which is not allowed under Vermont law either, they're going to get a ticket. Eventually then, they will understand that they need to park at the school. I don't park in Burlington in an area there where it says no parking or where it says resident parking only, because I know I'm going to get a ticket. If people get a few tickets, they're going to learn to park in a different spot. So let's enforce the laws we have before we say there's no solution.
I don't feel that there's a solution at work. Yes, we could ask the sheriff to spend some time there. That's a good suggestion. We have very limited sheriff time, right? That has been
Yeah.
allotted to us. We have, I think it's 40, maybe 50 hours a week.
Yeah,
So that's an option that we can do. I think it would help at the time they were there. I really do. I don't think the people that you see, like I drove down there last night.
mhm,
And absolutely, I turned on the road and there's literally people just walking. They have no clue they're in a road.
right.
But those aren't the people that, right, like they can't be from here or they would know it's a road, right? So I feel like if they had gotten a ticket for the scenario for last night, if they had gotten a ticket from a thing, sure, they would know next time. But some other person that's coming up to Leaf Peep and, they're not gonna, unless the sheriff is parked there, I just don't see I just don't see it working. I'm not trying to say, like, we have been through every option. We've been talking about this. I personally don't see a solution that's gonna work.
Well, it could, there are no silver bullet, but there is a help. And one thing the town could do is instead of putting signs on the side of the road where there has been no problem, the towns could put official signs by the Palmers that say no parking or resident parking only after this point where the road drops off and there's no room for somebody to park. They could also put signs that say overflow parking at the school. They could
There's
say,
supposed to be a sign there for.
it's a
that.
handwritten sign and nobody pays attention to it. It needs to be a town sign. It needs to be a couple of
I
town
actually think
signs.
I mean, you could be right. My take is they're gonna pay attention to the handwritten sign more than the official sign, because they're looking to see what flavors are there.
The
right?
evidence
Like,
proves otherwise.
they're gonna notice that,
Yeah.
I think, more than a little red sign, like, oh.
The evidence proves otherwise. I would love to see if there's a way to try to direct parking over to the school. So, and also to let people know that this is a public road and they need to treat it like a public road because none of us want to hit anybody. I drive down that road, people see me coming and they pull out in front of me. What is wrong with people?
Ain't fixed stupid.
So anyway, a few official signs and maybe a few tickets would encourage people. And I really think that that information passes by word of mouth. I do. I think it does. I think if you know that, well, I know where the state police are on the interstate, right? So I don't speed by them. People learn. People do learn. I want to see Palmer succeed. I love their ice cream. I think they're nice people. I love the idea of a small business succeeding in Jericho. But I think that if Jericho is going to have a commercial district where they encourage businesses, then they need to take a little responsibility to provide some sort of parking or steer the parking to a place that's safe. Where it is now, it's not safe. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Can I follow up? Yes, sure. State your name clearly for the record, please.
Eileen House, 59 Oak Pump Road. And I was here 2 weeks ago, when I gave comments, I told you what the problems were and why the signs wouldn't address it. I followed up with a very detailed letter that told you what, we're right there, we're living it, what the problems are. And I offered solutions. And I don't think that we've exhausted all of the solutions. Let me just say, after my comments, I assumed that the select board would revisit it. We're somebody who knows it, right up front, we live it. And I'm really, I was quite shocked yesterday when we saw the highway department putting up the signs. I was like, I told you why they wouldn't. You can't just do something that has no effect on anything just to make it look like you're doing something. I mean, it
So
just.
we heard your comment, and I really appreciate it, and I love all your data.
But okay.
But I believe that there's gonna be an argument exactly like the one you're both making of every one of these solutions. I believe
Okay,
that.
well,
I truly
okay,
believe that. I don't
I
want to sound
offered-
like I'm giving up, but
All
we
right.
have put in so much time and thought.
But
into
you
how we-
haven't come to us.
We
We
have
could have
heard
sat
from the
down,
neighbors
no, but you could
probably
have,
10 times.
you have
10
never,
times.
okay. I would have liked to have known that this was even going to be an option, because we could have told you right then, this doesn't solve anything. We've spent money on something that, there's no one parks on that side of the
The
road.
time that
But what happened?
and that's exactly why the signs are there. The police say that's.
Fire department couldn't get through.
But what you've done is
There were cars on both sides.
you've given the Palmers permission, allowing them to use Old Pump Road for their overflow parking, but you've taken away, as Beth said, our overflow parking, and we live there. Now, the state police, I have a feeling I know when that was, and that day I was there. And what happened was, I told you, there's two different problems, right, in my letter. The first problem is the congestion at Old Pump Road, and that's where people are not pulling in far enough. That has totally separate from what we deal with across from our house. They are not blocking the road at our house for the most part. It's other activity. I'll get to that in a minute. But that day I went down because Palmer's told us if anybody's blocking the road, please don't talk to them. Go see Colleen or whoever. I did. I was out the window and Colleen was busy, but somebody was going to come out. And meanwhile, somebody from down the road was very upset and came and started talking to the customers, and someone one of the workers said, please, talk to Colleen. And he's like, no, I'm gonna tell, they were halfway in the road. And the reason for that was what I said in my letter. They were trying to continue this perpendicular parking where there was no drive. So they were literally halfway in the road. He must have called the state police because 20 minutes later, there's a state police on our side of the road. And there was no one else parking on our side of the road. There may have been somebody in the vacant house that was for sale, that someone may have parked there. That happens occasionally, but not typically. That's kind of an unusual thing. It's usually almost all on the other side of the road. And what's, I feel a little bit just a slap in the face because we have to deal with people using our driveways, turning around right in front of our road constantly. And idling, and then we have to look at ugly signs in our yards. I mean, it makes no sense. So one of the options I think, and I've been very, very reluctant to say anything that we've been trying to work, hoping this would work out. But Old Pump Road needs to be stopped being used as a parking lot. And there needs to be at some point, no parking beyond this point. There's a telephone pole there across from number 47, right next to Palmer's. Maybe that's the point.
The only way to enforce that is with signs on both sides of the road, right?
No, because if there's a sign there that says no parking beyond this point, that's enough.
But where?
That's not our problem, though. Like, we shouldn't.
Roadways.
The residents
Sort
of that.
like what's out here, it says no parking in the traveled way. That's all you need to do, no parking in the traveled way. That'll take care of it. There's one outside, right here outside the town clerk's office.
We want to work, we want things to work, and we want to work with the select board, or with solutions or whatever, but nobody came to us. This was like a shock to get this letter that we're gonna get these signs. I immediately went into action and contacted Paula, and she said, come to the select board meeting, so I did. Why weren't my comments listened to?
Not that they weren't listened to. It's that we have been through a lot of solutions. Just because you didn't do what you said doesn't mean that you weren't heard. We heard
But this isn't a solution. That's what we're trying to say. It's not a solution because you want to keep the lane open. That lane was always open. There's never been blocked on that side of the street. And if we don't want to, but we should not be having to deal with somebody else's business problem. These are our homes. I sit out on my front porch all summer long and enjoy the fresh air, and I'm having people idling in front of my house. It's not right. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. This has been very upsetting to have to deal with what we deal with and then have signs on top of it. It was just too much for us we're just done. And I don't think you necessarily need to shut down the business, but you can say you can't use Old Pump Road as your parking lot. And I've been very, very reluctant to say that. I have defended them. I've tried to work with them for the things that we deal with. But I'm at the point now where this is just not right. So I thank you for your time. And I get a little passionate about this. Like I said, this is very fresh and very unexpected that these signs went up anyway. And I just want a real solution, not a fake solution. So I appreciate your time.
I do appreciate your comment.
Can you listen to it?
May I ask you one follow-up question?
Just one follow-up.
Andrew Albright, 675 Old Pump Road. Eric, I sense your frustration about this. But I also get a little sense that everybody's saying there's nothing more to be done here. Can you at least acknowledge that there is a public safety problem here?
I honestly think I think I mentioned the solution. I think the only solution is to put Palmer's out of business.
That's
No,
not-
I-
That's
that's
the
not-
only
that's
thing,
not-
that's the only thing that's gonna fix the safety issue.
It's not, I just gave you one.
And so I think that's what's on our plate, is we need to figure out if that's what we do.
Can we set up a meeting to work this
Sure.
out? Because we don't want to see Palmer shut down. We want, and maybe there is no solution, but I don't think you've exhausted them. You've put, like I said, you've put a solution that is not a solution. Can we
We've been
get
working on other
together?
issues.
Can we get together with the people involved and try to work something out?
So my question is,
Okay.
when somebody gets hurt there, which I think is probably inevitable, will you find a solution at that point, and what will it be? Maybe you need to be thinking ahead that way, rather than saying there is
Picking out
no.
proposal.
Can I-
proposed-
Can I jump in real quick?
Go ahead, Peter.
Hi, this is Peter Booth. I'm up on Zoom. I'm a select board member who's not in the room. The solution that I think I heard Eileen saying was to say no parking beyond this point, which, and that, yeah, and that I believe solves the problem for the residents. But it doesn't solve the problem of that there is not enough parking at Palmer's. We're still gonna have people backing out. We're still gonna have kids walking down the middle of the road. So all the things that Andrew is talking about are not solved by no parking beyond this point. I, like Eric, am at a bit of a loss of what to do other than saying like no parking anywhere on Old Pump Road at all. And, you know, right now their parking lot is in the right of way. So we could drop Jersey barriers in there and say there's no parking on Old Pump Road, but that's effectively saying you can't do business here. And I don't have a solution, but it's hard, and I'm relatively new on the select board, so I haven't been dealing with this as long as Eric and Catherine have. But it is hard to know what is, it's sort of like Eric said earlier, that anything that person A believes is a solution is offensive to person B, and so forth to person C and D, that everything you do, there's no way, I could be wrong, I don't believe there's any way to make that intersection safe. To make, not the intersection, but the area outside of Palmer's, I don't believe there's a way to make it safe without the Palmer's deciding to push their parking up east and into the Von Turkovich property, which we don't have any power to make them do that. But I don't mean to say like, hey, quit yelling at us because we're sick of it, but I don't see a solution that actually makes people feel like, okay, good, you guys dealt with this.
Yeah, has the town tried to do anything to make Palmer's recognize the danger?
We have had several,
We have been working.
we've been working with the Palmers. I've had meetings with the Palmers specifically to talk about some of these issues. We're trying to get discussion that they commit to having a solution by beginning of next season, because we're running into the quieter time of year. Because we agree something needs to be done, but at this point, I mean, next year we're going to pave the apron. We can stripe it, it'll be because that's part of the bridge apron as well. And we'll extend it a bit more into the road, so it's clear that it's a road. We also at that point can bring in the striping so that as people have cut the corners over the years, that opening has gotten wider and wider. We can stripe it in further. We'll have the yellow paint for the double yellow lines. So it's very clear that it's a road. That's one thing another thing the town could do. But we, as Peter said, we have no authority to require them to make, but they are talking to the Von Turkoviches. We're waiting to hear, what the solution is to them, because they too recognize the issue, because they don't like to have the neighbors so upset with themselves and hear the yelling all the time too. And
It would be nice to hear that from them,
Yeah,
which we have not.
Can I clarify one thing, which is that, Catherine, you just said that we don't have the authority to do anything about it, and that's not actually
we
true.
don't have the authority to make the Von Turkoviches sell the land to the.
No, good.
Right, but we do have the authority to, like I said, to say you're in the right of way and we're shutting off your parking, but and it sounds dramatic, but that's essentially saying.
That is the dramatic solution, yes.
Don't think it needs to go that far, but I wish that you were talking to Palmer's. I just wish you would have talked to the neighbors as well, because we want to work together.
Whatever the solution is, I'd like to see it implemented before someone is hurt there.
We do too.
And I don't want to be the person behind the wheel when somebody gets hit.
me either. Been a close call.
All right, are there any other public comments that are not related to Jessica?
Very quick.
We have to give it there, we do. This should be non-controversial, actually.
Yes.
Well, actually, it might be.
Well, nice to see you too, Isabel.
Yes, well, it's a peaceful subject. It's about burial. And we're really here tonight to ask permission to put us on the agenda for October. We do not wish to pursue this tonight. And it pursues the issue that there's a trend now toward people not only wishing green burial for all the environmental reasons, but they are now, several of them are my neighbors, wishing to be buried on their own property.
Yes.
And it occurred to, well, here we go, we have a commission, but this is way out of our wheelhouse, I'm here to tell you.
Well, that's probably true.
I mean, and I gather we don't even have a health officer, because I immediately think, oh,
Oh, we get to reappoint him tonight.
who is it?
Dr. Robert,
Richard Bernstein.
Richard Bernstein.
Oh, good, I thought he had retired.
We did too.
Oh, how wonderful. He would
He's
be
willing
perfect.
to
He will be
continue.
perfect, because he's one of the people who wants to be buried on his own property. Hallelujah. Okay. Anyway, excuse me. So, not really going, and Jessica, bless her heart, has found because I'm one of, another of my neighbors says, what do I do? What do I need to do? You're on the committee, you should know. And I say, I don't know. Jessica has found a form.
I got a template from the Morrisville town clerk as what they do, and so I can adapt it to Jericho. And it gets recorded in the land records, and it gets signed off on by the health officer.
That's good.
But
because I had already received a thing, I talked about, last time about someone, that wanted to be buried in their property, which is already legal, but we
Yeah.
suggested that he made sure that what he was doing gets on the land maps because people need to know.
Right.
So do we need any type of policy or anything for this, or would that?
I
form
think it
be
might be
enough?
approving this.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's on the
okay.
hand.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can give you,
it's really
this is
great.
currently the Morrisville template,
Okay,
and I can
perfect.
adapt it.
Do
Give you,
you have a copy? Can I keep them?
you can have, yeah, there's like
Okay,
6 of them there.
Oh, okay, perfect. I don't need all 6.
So yeah, I think, I don't know if you have to run it by the town attorney, but just approve it as a form.
Yep.
It's always safer to run it.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that was.
Or
Bruce's
VLCT
comment.
first, right?
VLCT.
VLCT, see what they think.
Because they have all kinds of templates and they say it looks good.
Include, I'll say include it.
So yeah, I can adjust it to Jericho.
Okay.
And I'm trying to make it legal size paper, so then it's only 1 page to record in the land records.
That's a great idea.
And then, is there anything else with the cemetery commission as far as for an October meeting?
I don't, no, unless we can, put it on, no, I think this is good. No, well, there are all sorts of, but let's stick to this one issue tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any, please come forward.
There are several lots.
Right.
Yes.
Please state your names clearly for the record.
Dan Gregoire, 3 Gravel Drive.
Bill Alders, 5 Gravel Drive, and for the record, most of the other residents of Gravel Drive are here as well.
So we came to officially inform you that we have met the terms to the agreement. For Gravel
Motion to
Drive.
go into an executive session because premature disclosure of legal information would be detrimental to the parties involved. And I'd like to invite the Gravels and the Gravel neighbors and Paula. And we'll have to go into executive session and drop MMCTV and cover it because it's a legal matter.
Okay.
So everybody has to.
I need a second for.
I
Sorry.
Need a second. Peter?
Second.
Second.
There you go. Get yourself- All those in favor of the motion to go into executive session, say aye.
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 Sorry, Charlie.
And you better come back.
Yes, please.
So should I, you're gonna cut off Zoom, right? Because there's a bunch of people here.
And then give you a separate link.
What's that?
Oh, can we, that we could do, I haven't
Go into
done.
separate.
How do you do that?
There is a breakout room
Room.
under more.
We'll give you a breakout room.
I'm
Okay.
gonna close off. Donna, we will be back with you. Just get back on that same link. Same with everybody.
How will I know what time to get back on?
I don't know.
Can't they just
so we're
stay,
gonna-
can't they just stay
if
in
we
the
get
main
pulled
room?
off, we'll create a breakout room and
And
you
leave
just
the
stay
main
where
room
you
alone.
are.
Okay, stay where you are, Donna, and we'll try a breakout room.
Us and Peter and do a breakout room.
And we'll stay
And
here.
Yes.
Yes.
you'll stay where you are.
Yep.
I have not done breakout rooms, I'll be honest. Have you?
No.
Do you know how to do a breakout room, Peter?
I've done it before, but I'm looking, I'm not
Oh,
sure I
there
have
you
the
go.
power, because I'm not a host.
The participants to choose.
Oh, you got it. No, assign manually.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're looking at it.
Oh, you
Well,
got it.
let's
Okay,
try-
great.
Room one.
I think you need to
Oh,
assign the Peter to your left a little bit.
is that it? Is there any other people on Zoom that were on for Gravel?
I wonder if that's Stacy Gokus, but who knows?
She would have piped up, I think.
Try it.
And we still hear you in the room here.
Yeah, we're still, so do I hit add a room?
I think just try opening all rooms and see what happens.
Okay, then
Okay, right here.
I'm gonna join room 1 for breakout now, so I'm gonna disappear from the main room.
Okay.
Did I?
Move fast.
Hold
That was
on.
great. So you caught me on a grouchy night, obviously, but it was clear.
So
when
we
did
can
that-
still hear you. We can still hear
Yeah,
you.
hold on, because I'm not sure why it's doing that.
So do you need to go to room 1 with Peter?
Oh, you didn't join. You, whoever you are, who are you?
Okay, hold on, I'm not sure how we go to room.
So click on,
Oh,
Yeah.
I see you now, but
You apologize for the timing. We did not.
sorry about that.
That's okay. You guys do not get paid enough. I don't want to get paid.
That was a legal thing that wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah,
You guys do not get paid enough.
thanks. Okay,
All
let's,
right,
Can we talk about Palmer a minute?
I don't think so.
Charlie, you
That's your
are getting the hot seat.
Oh, but just to let people know, though, there is one change to the, now that we're into the regular
Yes.
agenda, is that the road foreman is not able to be here again tonight, so we're postponing it again. But
Yep.
right now it's Charlie. Thank you very much, Charlie. for your time.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My annual customer service visit with you. But also I want to talk about some of the Act 181, which is the law that passed this year. That impacted Act 250, but also regional planning and some of the work that we have to do. So I'm going to go a little quicker maybe through our annual report than normal to focus a little bit more time on the 181 conversation. And so you did get this in the packet, right? Okay, good. So just for those of you that may not be reading this, the report, the first page is background on the Regional Planning Commission, which was created in 1966. We have a 29-member board. We leverage about 500,000 of local dollars to bring in last year $5.4 million of state and federal funds to the county. And at the bottom, it has your representatives on our board and committees last year.
Some of which are going to be changing then, obviously.
Absolutely. That was last year. It's different this year.
Yep.
And thank you particularly to Catherine for being on our board for a long time now and former chair. So on our executive committee. The second page has a list of projects that we worked on specifically with the town last year. Including some looking at a path and some project management, some GIS, technical assistance and other things. I'm happy to get any feedback on any of those projects if you have any.
No, we're just excited that they're happening.
Okay, excellent.
For me, it's nice. It's nice for being in the new position. It's nice to thank you. But it's nice to kind of meet the people from CCRPC like Cy and walking through that Riverside path, the sidewalk. It was good.
Excellent.
Very informative.
Yeah, good. Thank you. The third page has, you have a handful of projects that are in the state capital transportation program.
that are also in our transportation improvement program. The tip, as it's called, needs to be approved by the RPC board in order for V-Trans to be able to spend federal transportation funds on these projects. That's really just information for you. And then the last section is a whole bunch of activities that we do regionally without regard to any specific municipality. Those range from our ECOS regional plan, which I do want to talk more about in a minute. We've been doing a lot of work on engagement and public engagement and equity. Housing, which maybe we should talk more about. Last year, actually, I'll get this updated for future town visits, but we just got the final numbers for 23 construction. I think we're close to 700 units got built in the county last year. We were about 622. Still pretty short of our 1,000 units a year goal. We're hoping that starts to turn a little bit more positively. And then a lot of other kinds of work, walking, biking, energy work, clean water, culverts. We've been supporting the Communications Union District, brownfields, but happy to take any questions or feedback on any of those items.
Noticed you left out Green Mountain Transit. That's such an issue.
Well, no, it's not left out because it's an issue.
No, it's not. It just happened to be, turns out to be an issue this year. Normally it's not.
Yeah, it's something, they take care of themselves. We're not actually doing work for them.
Right, you just pass through.
Yeah, we do pass, in the last, I think last year was like $450,000 of transportation, transit planning money, if you will. We passed through to GMT. I think this year it's over 600,000. We've been doing kind of what we could to help them with their budget situation in some little part. Yeah, I'm sorry. Any more questions or feedback on that?
No, I'm just waiting for October.
Okay, what happens in October?
I'm going to try to allocate,
For GMT?
Yeah.
Conversation. Yeah, so sorry, for the rest of you, we tried to have the GMT general manager, Clayton Clark, come to the RPC board meeting last night, and he couldn't make it at the last minute, so we, we'll try to squeeze him into the next
But we
meeting.
did, to
I hope you, has he been at your
about it.
board meeting here yet?
Right?
Has he come to your select board
We
meeting?
didn't even have any information.
Okay. I encourage you to reach out to him and
Yes,
I can connect you to
Okay.
get him to your select board.
Sure, yeah.
I know he was at Essex on I think Monday night.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that in updates, that they've had a lot of pushback because of the number of people that
Oh, sure.
are concerned about their routes.
I don't think they're surprised by that.
No.
And as much as anything, this is also just getting prepared for the legislative session. Right. But I do encourage you to have, because definitely this route, the Jeffersonville route is, just about, I think it was like the top of their list for the most expensive routes.
It is. Unfortunately, the most expensive
Okay.
route.
And so it's, I think, I don't know what will happen there, but I
I
anticipate
know.
something will happen.
Be nice just to even have one a day rather than two or something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. No, that's a major issue, for, Jericho and Jeffersonville and Underhill, and, so it's real. There's, this last page is, something, is a new, issue. And this is a summary of Act 181, which was kind of called the Act 250 bill during this session. And this summary is very much written from the RPC perspective. So this is kind of the Regional Planning Commission implications. And so it was a pretty significant overhaul to the planning and permitting process in the state, moving from a kind of a numbers-based jurisdictional thresholds. Like if you had more than 10 units, you were subject to Act 250, right? This is now moving to a more location-based. If you're in these areas, I think maybe this is what you were referring to earlier during public comment. If you're in, adjacent to village centers and things, they've actually put in some interim exemptions. but it's more place-based or location-based jurisdiction going forward. So where the town is trying to encourage growth, that may be exempt from Act 250. There's limitations and more nuances there, but just generally, that's the big picture, location-based jurisdiction. And what that location base is actually going to be based on the regional plan's future land use map, which right now I think is pretty consistent with the town's future land use map. But there's new statutory definitions and some criteria that we'll have to work through with you. So this is really a heads up introduction to this issue. I expect over the coming months, and I should also introduce my compatriot, Darren Schibler, who's a senior planner on our staff. We kind of have assigned a planner to each town to make sure we kind of keep consistent thought. So Darren will work with Jericho and your planning commission. I expect we'll probably have a few meetings with your planning commission to talk through this. There's nothing specific for the town to do or act upon. Well, I guess depending on how you're feeling about our work, you may want to take some action at some point, but we're really trying to do as collaborative a process as we can, and hoping we can get to the same page. I anticipate though, we haven't fully digested the statutory language in terms of the implications that it has in each town. So we'll be working through that over the next few months and with you. But I would not be surprised if there's some issues that come up that we need to kind of work through. And we may be stuck, and it may not be a comfortable situation. But I guess the most important message I want you to hear is that we're not changing our stripes. We're still here to support the town and work with the town. But we do have a statutory process that we have to follow. So we'll try to work with you as best we can through that. And I don't know exactly how that will turn out, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some issues. We also have some requirements about doing more participation. The legislature was very worried that we wouldn't talk with our towns to do the map. So we're going to talk with you, but we also have to do some extra effort to reach out to, I think, what they call environmental justice communities, but marginalized, low income, underrepresented communities. And also we have to look at the environmental benefits and burdens on that. All right, we have to look at environmental benefits and burdens to those underrepresented communities. So we're not quite sure how to do that yet, but we will figure that out over the coming months. The second major section here is also noting that there are housing targets that are going to come out. There's going to be a statewide housing target that comes out from the administration sometime in the next few months. They have a 6-month clock deadline that started in August when they released that housing needs assessment. You may have seen some headlines about that, of like we need 24 to 36,000 units. That was the 5-year need. There's going to be like a longer term, like maybe out to 2050 housing target that the administration sets, and they are going to break it down for each region. So we're going to have a housing target, and then we're required to break it down to each municipality. There was some similar language in statute for a couple decades that's talked about the RPC giving housing targets. I don't think it used the word housing targets, but giving each town their housing needs. So I think that really wasn't happening that specifically. So there's more specific language to kind of force that to happen now. And the housing targets have to kind of also mesh with the map, right? Those units have got to land in a way that makes sense on the landscape. So it is a responsibility of our board ultimately. So you do have a strong voice there. And on the back page of this, it's just kind of noting, we just started to kind of think about how we're going to go through this process. And we kind of have, we carved up into 6 phases at this point in time. We're doing some internal work, both on mapping and numbers and things, and doing things like this, 1-pager summary. And in phase 2, we're starting, actually, this meeting is kind of the start of phase two, just kind of introducing this issue to the select board, making sure you're aware of it. And then phase three was all looking at how to do those environmental benefits and burdens and analysis. Really start doing more engagement on the map in phase four over the winter. And then in phase five, marrying the map and the housing targets together. And then six, of course, is just getting to kind of final approval. The other significant thing that changed in the statute is up until now, when the Regional Planning Commission approved our regional plan, that was the end of the process. There's now a process where the Regional Planning Commission has to adopt the plan, but just like you send your plan to the RPC board for approval, we have to send it to this new land use review board for approval. And there's statutory criteria there that they're going to be reviewing. So there's definitely some more weight coming out from the state in how to do this. Heads up. It's, I think, my bottom line message, and happy to take any questions or, and we also, if there's any groups or entities, I've kind of heard about your housing committee tonight, the planning commission. So we kind of, we'll make sure we talk to those two
I'm
groups.
sure the Conservation Commission.
And the Conservation Commission also. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to focus on the housing, but you're right. There's also, you know, where do we want growth, but also what parts of our county and the town do we want to protect? So we should have that conversation also. Thank you for that. Any other groups or committees or folks that you think we should be talking to? Off the top of your head, and if you think of any, let us know as we go through this, or better yet, let Darren know. He will actually follow through.
All right, Chuck.
Catherine said earlier that there was a state policy that is driving our ban on triplexes.
I didn't say driving a ban on triplexes. I said about the driving the density into the village centers.
Okay, so when I mentioned the ban on triplexes, Catherine said that was based on, it was rooted in state policy. I'm wondering where I can get a copy of that policy.
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific policy that gets that specific. The state, they did open up, you have to allow duplexes.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've updated your zoning yet, but you have to allow duplexes anywhere you allow a single.
Right.
They didn't really address triplexes. And then of course, where you have water and sewer, I think they said you have to allow quadplexes anywhere you allow singles.
So the state is not banning.
I didn't say, yeah, I wasn't intimating that the state was banning things. I said that they're just, you keep talking about, you know, everywhere, but I'm saying right now the state wants to encourage growth in the village centers and the villages.
Is the state discouraging triplexes in rural areas?
They're not specifically encouraging it. They specifically encourage duplexes, so they didn't go quite that far. And they are still, you know, focused on smart growth as a policy, which is, you know, concentrating development in certain locations. So, yeah, so that's about as much as I know about that now. But we will be back.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Very much.
Appreciate the surprise visit we had.
No worries. Things happen. Thank you very much. We'll see you.
All right, Angelike.
Right. So it's funny because I've never met Charlie in person and we're in Zoom meetings through the CCCUD. Oh, hi, there you are.
Nice try.
You picked up phone. Welcome to Zoom next week.
He wants to get overtime. Yeah.
No.
You just went over that.
You're out. You're done.
Yeah, right. You're excused.
So bringing broadband to 3% of Jericho considered unserved or underserved, right? That's what we're talking about. And also getting an alternate to be on the CCC.
Yes.
Board, one of those. So I just was checking with Paula because we haven't really talked about this for a long time. And
Yeah, and I have also just been following along these meetings as I shifted from alternate to being rep a few months ago. So there's 8 of us in the CCCUD. There's still a question mark, what's gonna happen after all these meetings and all these months and the progression of broadband throughout the state of Vermont. And I just wanted to let you know that currently sort of the group, that there's 8 towns of us, still a big question mark, certain amount of fatigue in the group. There's not the wild optimism that everyone had when we first joined the CCCUD. Will there be like this miraculous appearance of all these companies that come and build broadband for less and more competition in the area? It doesn't seem that way. It seems it's the same big players kind of moving through. We are currently supporting a proposal with Consolidated, who had the best offer, very few offers, and are building in this area anyway. And so the push is to get the ARPA money applied to Chittenden County before time runs up, clock runs down, and correct me at any time, Charlie, because really I'm just relaying what happened over the last few months. So we're currently waiting the CBB, and excuse me because the Vermont Community Broadband Board, which we all hear about in the news, and we heard about in the news today because there was a big announcement regarding the BEAD funding from the federal government, which Jericho will need for this participation in the CCCUD to actually benefit us. Okay, so backing up a little bit, we're supporting this application that Consolidated brought to us, and we're trying to get to see if the VCBB will decide to apply the ARPA funds to the phase 1 of this plan in Chittenden County as a whole. But sadly, Underhill and Jericho are in phase 2 of the plan. So great, Chittenden County, let's get more broadband in generally in Chittenden County, and Jericho and Underhill are kind of going along with the group because we think we have nothing really to lose, but there wasn't another way we would get stuff built out in phase 1. But Consolidated is doing this proposal where in phase 2, if they get the BEAD money from the federal government, which fingers crossed it will reach us too, which they're going to need like 11 million to reach Jericho and Underhill people for this very small percentage of our population. But hey, if we can get it in our area, it seems like it's important. So anyway, so that's, I hope that made some kind of sense, but that's kind of what's happening now. We're a little bit in a waiting pattern. And we're just kind of watching broadband unroll in its own special way in Vermont, and sort of going along with the rest of the gang in Chittenden County. We have really good leadership. We have like Mike Vance, who's in Waitsville Telecom, but also resident of Williston. He's our president. We have Ann from your organization that is really getting us all organized. So that's it. And I hear there may be an alternate.
Yes, I sent him all the information, but I don't see him on. But Dan Smith, he has volunteered to be an alternate for it.
I'm happy to reach out.
Yeah, I can give you his contact. I'll send that out to you.
Thanks for
Any
your
questions or
Thanks
anything
for
like
your work
that?
with that committee.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's been a little up and down, so appreciate your
If-
updates.
Yeah,
Please follow
I would like
through
to see
it.
the learning curve, but I'm just trying to follow on what's happening because it's kind of like, I think for everybody, a learning curve. And
absolutely.
this whole broadband saga, I mean, like so important to work, study, do anything.
Fiber is very important for, continue to be moving to the future.
Can I add just a couple more details?
Oh, certainly.
So, yeah, Chittenden County is upside down from the rest of the state, right? Like 90 something percent of our residents have some service. And so broadband service at a decent speed. And so unfortunately, what's happened, and you probably, if you looked at the map in Jericho, it's very small pockets, 3 people down down this road and 3 people down that road, and 1 person whose driveway is a quarter mile long, they're just not close to the road. So, so it's not attractive for any bulk purchasing type of thing, which is what is happening in the other CUDs. We're waiting, I think in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna hear about the ARPA money, which is $2.1 million. And I hadn't
The
followed
phase one,
phasing.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
the phase 1. Yeah, and then we'll see, if the broadband board approves that, that will at least get started the relationship with, Consolidated. And if they don't, I'm not sure if the CUD in Chittenden County may just fold up. And then there's this other BEAD application to do, more, but essentially, we only really have one option when we get into our rural areas, which is Consolidated, unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks for filling that. And also that Consolidated would throw in another 30% of that phase one build. Williston, Shelburne, Essex, everybody but us. But none of us want to be in here for the long run. Like, I don't want to be going to these meetings in 10 years, like, as opposed to upside down again from the rest of the state. Like, we don't want to own the infrastructure and maintain and run it. Consolidated in the contract, they would own all that stuff.
And that's what I really meant about it not making sense. Like, you wouldn't spend millions of dollars to get to a handful of homes, right? It just doesn't make sense. And so if Consolidated is here, making it easier for them to get to the homes seems like the best business model here. But yeah, and definitely the board has been talking about they're not going to own anything. They're more managing these funds, making sure they get deployed right.
And to have an exit plan.
Consolidated already owns its own poles, so it doesn't have to pay pole pole fees and things like that, so they can just, instead of copper or whatever it is they can go to fiber.
Yeah, I think they did the CUD did an RFP, and they really only got one response.
Actually, we got a couple, but no like big surprises. Not like the little companies we'd hope would emerge from the woodwork and do it.
Yes. Me too.
Thank you both. Thank you.
And I'm glad. Thanks for staying.
Thank you, Angelike. So Dan isn't here, so shall we wait on him?
I think we should.
Angelike even talk to him.
Yeah, I can certainly send her Dan's email and go from there.
Great, thank you. Have a
He is
good
willing
evening.
to do it.
All right, you've been up and down too, Jeff, but saying no money, and now maybe you can have money.
I'm not saying we have money.
But first it was.
But Angela, it's, like, it's like, I gotta come ask you guys before I apply, so. So this is a request to the select board for your approval for the Jericho Town Library to apply for money to retrofit, to improve the energy efficiency of the library. So this is a state program that has been, I've been doing this thing for, I think, almost 2 years now. There's a State Act 172, something called MERP, Municipal Energy Resilience Grant. It's $45 million being spread across Vermont at up to $500,000 per building to figure out the need. The state paid for energy audits of buildings that the towns identified as being, interested in applying for the grant. We had an energy audit of the town library in April 15th. We finally got that audit 5 months later on September 12th. At about the week before that, we had been told that the money was only going to what are called high energy burden towns with a lot of energy spending relative to income. So Jericho does not qualify under that. So they said, don't bother to apply. We're not gonna, we've had 500 buildings in Vermont that have energy needs identified. We won't have needs outside, we won't be funding any needs outside the high energy burden towns. The state, I guess, got something happened and they said, well, we're now going to open it back up. So last week they said, no, we're going to open, maybe 10 days ago, they said, we're going to open it back up to everybody to apply. Not saying you're going to get money, but you can at least apply. There's it's just a form to fill out. We do have we would use the numbers that we got from the efficiency report that we received. 70 lovely pages. I can share it with you.
How bad is it though? If you reduce that down to like a sentence or two, like how bad is your building as far as?
Not bad.
Not bad.
So it gets like a C instead of an F maybe? G, B.
I mean, the building has issues that aren't related to the energy,
Right.
right? The foundation is the big issue.
No, yeah, no, I just meant for
Right.
energy. Yeah.
No, for the energy, there's, that we burned $3,000 worth of kerosene. That's kind of not a bad number, right? And, we burn a couple that, maybe $1,000 or $1,500 worth of electricity. So it's a small building, right? I wouldn't want to it's a big kerosene furnace in the back. So I got started thinking that, it's a 2010 furnace. Eventually that furnace has got to be replaced. And I was hoping that we could get into this heat pumps. So that was the driving force. Let's get off that kerosene and let's get into heat pumps. And so Catherine's been aware of the work that we've done. Now they came back and said, you have to use our official numbers, which said changing the heat pumps over is a $46,000 deal, which is much, much higher than the bids I got a year and a half ago. So it's not my money, it's their money. It's all I'm asking for is your guys' approval to apply for the money that they said we would need to do it.
Motion to accept, to allow the Jericho Town Library to apply for this grant.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Good luck. I mean, you have been plugging away at this a long time, Jeff.
Yeah.
There's no question. And I agree with you. You should get off the kerosene and, be able to move forward.
And if you can find a way that I can be selling heat pumps for $48,000, I'd be into becoming a salesman.
And Ann Janda, the RPC has been very helpful.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
wonderful.
she's great.
She's very helpful.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff. Thanks for the evening. All right, now we're gonna go to town road policy.
Yeah, I think, since Peter's away and, I think you guys could just take a look at the draft, go through it, and maybe we can revisit it. You see Claudine's changes, but I still have a question out there with Claudine, a couple other questions that I'd like answered before
Oh, okay.
we get to the final
She did
stages of
change the
this.
language.
She did, yeah,
The appropriate one.
yes.
And, I was gonna tell, Chuck that we cannot legally discontinue a public road.
Right.
Zoning purposes.
Say that again, Catherine. What'd you say?
We can just continue any road we want. Claudine's told us that 15 times, 1,000 times.
Well, it has to have process. You can't write it into a draft, road policy. You can discontinue the road, but
Right.
it's not in the road, you can't do it in a road policy.
How come?
You have, because there's a very specific road process you have to follow to discontinue a public road. And so that's in state statute.
Okay.
And there's,
So we can't say in our policy, if you make us angry, if you violate whatever, then we're gonna stop, we're gonna hand you your road back. To do that, we'd have to go through the process of state statute, not from road policy.
exactly.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
But otherwise, in there, it does say the town will not accept a road that provides access to a neighborhood where the properties accessed by the roadway are subject to a homeowners association agreement or other amendment limiting or having the effect of limiting the development of housing that would otherwise be consistent and eligible for permitting under the town of Jericho's land use and development regulations. So we can't put that in there.
You're saying we positively can put that in there.
In fact, that she even wrote it in there. That's the
Right,
last
yeah,
bit.
I saw that in there. So I will admit that my life's been a little chaotic lately, and I haven't read that policy with the notes from Claudine. But what was the reason that we can't adopt it right now? Are you waiting for something else, or is it just because I'm not there?
Yeah, I had a couple just minor questions to ask her and she had to leave today out of state. So she's gonna get back to me hopefully early next week with just answering my questions before we approve this.
Got it. Okay.
Because I
Okay,
know
thank
you
you.
said you were concerned about the saying homeowners agreement instead of homeowners.
Yeah,
association.
and I wanted to make sure that's not in here, because she
It's
says
not, it's
homeowners
homeowners
association.
association agreement.
Exactly,
So it has the whole thing.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
it's,
I just wanted to clarify, is that good? And that's all I need.
Yeah, I think the association is the people. And the
Right.
agreement is the language on the piece of paper.
Sure,
Right.
yep,
Is
exactly.
the agreement is the rules.
Yep.
right.
So I
exactly.
believe, if you guys don't, if you have any changes or anything, we could certainly do that, and then maybe at the next select board meeting.
I
it'll be
thought it
set.
looked good. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's fine.
Okay.
I'll make a point to look at it in detail, but for the next meeting, so I can come and say, or I'll let you know ahead of time, Paul, if there's questions I have or things I'm concerned about, but otherwise we can
Okay,
plan
sounds
on.
good.
passing it
Because the
next
last,
time.
yeah, that sounds good, because the last time we went through it and we agreed for pretty much everything except those two.
yes, yep,
And so one is able to be put in here with nice language and the other one cannot be.
yep,
But it doesn't mean you can't do it, but it's a process.
yep,
And it has to be specific reasons why you're doing that.
yep. Okay, thank you.
But I'm not necessarily sure, it's not clear that it's zoning
Right.
allows you to do that. All right, next on that is, yeah, it was funny,
So he is, so after all that, he is
Yeah,
willing to do it
he
again.
came
Okay.
back and he's like, I'm willing to stay. So,
isn't that nice?
yeah, he is a great guy.
So anyway, what we have to do is approve the, well, there it is. We recommend the appointment of, Richard Bernstein, as the town health officer. So you want to make those motions?
So moved.
Second,
Second? All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Okay, thank you, Bill. Next is, we get to approve liquor licenses.
Did you bring your time machine? I forgot. Like, did you actually bring it?
I knew you were gonna love it.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna love it.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm like, it's a long time ago when I went.
Go.
I'll make a motion to accept the liquor license of Griffin Riders LLC for Mansfield Barn for September 6th, 2024.
Peter's laughing.
Second, I guess.
Hey, Peter.
We have a motion in a second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve Waterfront Yogurt and Sandwich Company for Mansfield Barn for October 13th. Oh, look at that for the future. Perfect. That'll be fun.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect.
Perfect.
We're done.
So next is updates.
So I have a couple. I know I often don't.
Wow.
But it is soccer season, so I end up with a lot of parents and stuff on the sideline, so I get to hear things that I didn't notice. And Paula, you might remember, I remember this conversation from a couple years back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where if you're coming down Boulder Hill and you get to that crazy intersection, right? So the walking path, there's a stop sign at the bottom.
Yep.
People that aren't particularly familiar with that with that intersection, stop. And it causes a major problem. And I know we brought this up before and I thought we made a change, but I talked with a parent who drives that way and it frequently.
You mean Pratt Road? Are you on Pratt Road?
Nope, so you're at Pratt Road, you come to the end, you take a right.
Yes,
and you
right
go-
there, that stop sign.
Nope,
Oh, the one down
the one
below?
at the bottom of the hill.
Yes.
Bottom of the hill.
I do remember it, and we asked the previous foreman to change the height of the signs. So
Right,
it
we
would
did.
be the,
And
just
I thought we
the,
did that, did we not do it?
apparently
He
he
did,
didn't,
he
if they're saying so. So I will have Jacob do
It
that.
didn't look like the sign height changed much.
Okay, so I have a couple recommendations. That's good. So I would lower it. I would somehow angle it toward the range just a little bit, like
Yep.
13 degrees. And if we could put a little smaller one up there, then I think that would be less
We
confusing.
had it. It wasn't even a stop sign. It was like a little square plate that,
Yeah, I mean, I
He
don't
was
want a
supposed to put up
biker like not noticing it, but at the same time,
Yep.
right now, people are stopping at that exact spot.
Yep.
And my very first accident was I was an idiot kid driving and I literally stopped there to let another car go, which was dumb. We all know not to do that, and I got rear-ended. So that one.
Yep.
That one, let's try to get that fixed.
Yep.
The other one, now talking about Pratt Road. I had the opportunity to go down there. I know the road crew's been busy and I know Jacob couldn't make it tonight. That road needs a little love on
Pratt
the
Road?
sides. Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of like washouts and I know they're
Yep,
they're overworked, but it was bad enough that I'm like, I better let Paula know about that.
yep, okay, perfect.
And I made another road thing. I guess that's it. Those are the two that have come up recently.
I know Gaye was on. Oh, there she
Yeah,
is, I see her.
He's here, yeah.
Yes. And she wanted to talk about the
Yes.
kickoff.
Yes.
So go ahead, Gaye.
Okay, great. I meant, I at one point had the bright idea of sending you a copy of the agenda for October 5th. And I didn't do that until about 5 minutes ago to you, Paula, but can I share it? Would you like to see it or I can just read it to you?
Yeah, I can, okay, well, Eric's gonna have to come in and do the share thingy, because I don't know, it doesn't,
It's not, doesn't think I'm the host anymore, so you might have to.
well, can I make you the host?
I don't know how you did that.
Well, I don't know
How you got
either.
me off of.
Oh, maybe it's because you were in a breakout
During-
room.
During the
Yes,
breakout
other
room, Paul
two,
became the
yeah.
host.
I was the host.
He was the host.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
anyway,
during the breakout room fiasco,
Oh,
it said on my screen, Paula Carrier is now host.
It's not complicated. I mean, I could just read it to you if you
no,
want.
I just made
read it.
Eric the host. Go ahead, Eric. You're now the host.
Well, it's already set to all the participants can share, so she
Yeah.
can just share.
I just checked that. That's the only thing.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Oh, God.
I can tell you.
So Gaye can share.
Yep, you can share.
Okay, I think this is it.
Mhm.
Yep.
You see it.
You can see the agenda?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
I have all these other things on there, but as long as you tell me, I believe you.
Yep, we can see 10:05 and 10:40.
Yeah, okay, great. So basically the group has met pretty regularly recently. And I have been involved. I personally am not going to be able to be at the meeting on October 5th. David Barrington has been away, and so we're going to meet and just kind of have a changing of the guard, and he will be present. I don't think that's a big deal, but the agenda, we looked at 3 different approaches to this meeting, and the group landed on a meeting. All of them had something in common, which is this first half hour of brief presentations about how did we get here? What is this whole, town meeting reimagined? Like, who came up with this? And kind of a primer on what's the process for putting together the town budget. Ideally, that would be a select board member, just kind of walking through, like, we're starting, and this is pretty much what we're focused on between now and the end of January, and just help people understand what's the process, and if there is a particular piece of the budget they had a concern about, they could show up at a select board meeting. And then again, a primer on how do we develop public questions and get them on the ballot. So anyway, that's kind of a how-to, and the last part is, to what extent does the town plan relate to the budget and public questions? That comes up a lot in our meetings, and so we've asked that somebody from the planning commission be there to kind of help people see. There's I forget what they call it, but it's something like what's going to happen next or something like that. That is a section of the town plan. They are not obviously going to walk through a 400-page document, but to what extent does that relate to the budget or to public questions? So that's all just, you know, it's a kickoff. This is the kickoff meeting to the whole budgeting process. We then would move into small groups, and this is the part we talked a lot about. Do we stay in the whole as a meeting of the whole, or do we move into small groups? And there was a strong preference for the latter, for moving into small groups.
Hey, Gaye, can I jump in real quick out with a question? Under the how to develop public questions and get them on the ballot. Number one, it says questions currently in development. Are there people who are already working on questions that they want to get on the public on the Australian ballot?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Our group hasn't been working on them.
Yeah. Okay.
There might be.
That would be a time if somebody was working on one, they would share it.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So then we go into, we're in these smaller groups, and the concept is that if we expect that there'll be people participating online and they will create a group, there'll be an online group rather than trying to have each small group have a hybrid piece to it. That felt like a lot to manage. So Angelika at the Mount Mansfield TV is working. She's really taking a lead on the tech side of this. She's terrific. We are really lucky. Let me just back up. We have the most incredible group of people. It's really amazing. We have these meetings and people come up with these ideas, and then we have this long list of things, and then people say, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. There's no silence. There's no like, okay, I'll do that. It's really, really an incredible group of people. Just my 2 cents. And I know many of them coming into this process. It was, and you know, like, not like I should have some select group of people I know who are really wonderful. It's just really been incredible. It's been really fun. And David and I both can walk out of these meetings going, can you believe that? It's really great.
I mean, really, truth. I mean, these are really sharp people. A lot of skill.
Yeah, it's been great. And we've had some people who come and listen and, you know, aren't there all the time. But there's a strong core group. So anyway, the concept was, this is a brainstorming meeting. It's a meeting for idea generating. And we want people to feel welcome and comfortable. And for a lot of people, the meeting of the whole is just scary and it's harder to speak up. And so those are kind of some of the factors that really led the group to prefer an agenda where we're in small groups. It's not we are not trying to come up with like, what's the consensus of the group of people who show up on October 5th. We're not going to be hashing out like, my idea is better for you than yours for the following reasons, or that idea doesn't belong for the following reasons. It's really brainstorming and thinking about, you know, what are our priorities? We are also really lucky to have Jennifer Nauer she's just a really good facilitator and constantly comes up with ways to ask questions that are generative, that don't shut down the conversation, but open it up and encourage people. And she's already provided kind of a coaching document for the people who are leading the small groups. And we're beginning to kind of recruit people to be ready to lead small groups. Our thinking is the groups might be 5 to 7 people. And we have no idea how many people are going to show up at this, and I would welcome your guidance on that. But for our planning purposes, we are kind of planning for 50. Like the people preparing food have said, how many people will be there? Well, we have no idea. That is answer number one. This is our first time doing this, but you know, we think if you want to plan for 50, we think that's reasonable. and who knows what'll happen. So anyway, we're recruiting enough leaders to be able to manage groups if there were 50 people there. If you think we should prepare for more than that, we're all ears. We would come back together at the end, but not to report out, not to say, this is what our group said, and this is what our group said. It more to reconvene, so we don't sort of straggle away, but there's a sense of what did we just do and what did that feel like? And then there'd be time for people to mingle, that on purpose, we would leave time for people to visit tables. We're envisioning that the planning commission might have a table, that the mobs farm committee has already mentioned they'd like a table. There may be others. We will be clear to those folks. We're not asking them to make a presentation. It's really there for information purposes. And they're welcome to join the conversation, the meeting while the meeting is going on, whether choose a small group or whatever. So that's the general agenda. And then I can go back to talk about sort of what we're asking of select board members, but I just wanted to see if you had any questions about the general agenda. It's 10 to noon at the high school in the library. The town library has agreed to do food. We're working with the Leo's Club, which is the high school end of the Lions Club, to possibly provide childcare. That is not yet set. Sam is working on that, and it sounds like they're interested, and we're underway. And the high school has set aside a room for that to happen in. And I will stop talking.
Thanks, Gaye.
Thanks, it's terrific. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, Peter?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Would you be willing to send out that, even though it's a draft, that agenda?
Yes.
Just so we can see, I'd like to look at that in more detail. And have you, I think you and I, or maybe the whole select board at some point, talked about,
The agenda, this agenda, yeah. Sorry, Peter, I interrupted.
Sorry, talked about the space, and having a small space overcrowded is better than having a cavernous space empty. Have you guys made any decisions about location? I know it says at the top of the document, location is TBD still, but.
No, the location is the library at the Mountain
Oh, okay.
at the high school.
Okay.
A lot of people, I wasn't at this meeting, but a lot of people referenced the planning commission's meeting sometime in the last couple of years, where there was kind of a review of the town plan and people felt like it was really effective. They really liked the way that worked in that space. So it's that, and we have talked to Mike Weston. It's free for us to be able to use that day. There's some sporting event that overlaps, but he didn't think that was a problem with the parking. And yeah. And I would like to talk a little bit about just the town, that first part, if that's okay. But you had other questions, Peter. Do you want to do that?
That was it. That was it.
Okay. I will send out the agenda. Our thinking is to, again, and we will, someone will follow up with you about this, but there'd be a select board member to just review the budgeting process as it moves forward, and help people understand how to provide input if they want to. We also want to, and I think it was Jessica that we were going to ask to provide, how do you develop public questions and get them on the ballot? And I do I want to check in with you about the dates. Once we finish with this agenda, I want to get back to the question of the dates. Yeah, so it's pretty, I guess, the other piece that isn't written down on this agenda is, if you could just, as a select board, say, thanks for showing up on a Saturday, and we're excited to try this new model. As part of the initial task force members speaking up, we will emphasize that this is, here are the basic principles we're trying to work with, both encouraging more participation in the town's decision about its budget, but also making that participation meaningful. That's the balance between, you know, the different models of, and that's sort of the wording that Susan Clark gave us in terms of what she thinks about and what she sees a lot of towns working on with their town meetings. But if you can provide just a welcome and, you know, appreciation for the process and a kind of just endorsement of like, yeah, this is great, kind of thing, that would also be terrific.
Sounds good.
And then my last question is, I would love to revisit, we've had lots of emails, but I still, let me stop sharing. But I've still I think I understand these dates, but I just want to be sure. And I'm going to pull up the calendar for January. I don't have all our emails in front of us, but as I recall, the budget needs to be warned by February 2nd. And what I believe is that we could have the meeting number 2, which will look in format, I believe, more like the town meeting we're used to. I believe that could as long as that happens by January 27th, it would give you time to then meet as a select board on that week and get the meeting warned. And I just want to check that that's the case. I'm not saying we would have the meeting on the 27th. It might be that it would be on Saturday, the 25th. It might be that it would be, you know, in the evening, like at 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 23rd, or on the 27th. But I just want to get a date, the last date possible, clear. And we'll go to public questions later, but first, am I right in thinking that the last date, and remember, we would want to be able to post, we don't have to print it, it isn't a warned item, but we would want to have posted whatever draft budget we're working with at least, you know, a week, 10 days in advance.
Absolutely.
Right.
Which is why meeting on the 18th, I think, would be very hard for you, because that would be asking you to have a draft budget ready to go out, you know, like on the 11th, 10th or 11th. Whereas if we meet on the 25th, 23rd, 25th, 27th, you know, then you're looking at something more like the 18th, 17th, 16th to have a draft budget.
Paula, does that date of the 27th for the meeting to happen, does that give us and you enough time to flip things around and get it all the I's dotted and T's crossed in time for the February 2nd deadline?
I'm thinking so, but I've got an email out to Repro to give me kind of a estimated deadline as to what they need. So I can get back to Gaye and let her know. Well, get back to you all if you want, let you guys know what it is that they have for a deadline.
Yeah, because that's important, because we don't want it, everybody last year was, where's the town meeting report? Very close to town meeting, and people like to look at it ahead of time.
Well, remember, this is not town meeting.
I know, but when it comes to you, we're trying to figure out what's the last day for printing. Because that's also part of having the final budget, is that has to go into the print shop with the town report.
Right.
Yeah, I can let you know.
What has to happen, just as the new guy, so let's say that on the 27th, I keep using the example of Phil Newbeck adds $500 to the budget for striping. And then and that budget gets passed and it's 4 point whatever million. And what then happens at that point? What are the marks that need to get hit besides that last printing date? What do we need to do? We need to meet right, and approve a budget, the select board.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely have to do that. We have to meet, and that's our final budget.
Okay, and then what do you have to do, Paula, once we give you the final budget number?
Give that to the printers and get a draft and then send it out.
Okay, so
But it's the warning date that is the driver here, isn't it?
the February
Yeah,
2nd
the
date.
last day to warn it, we absolutely have to do it. There's no
Yes.
later than February 2nd.
Yeah.
So what happens is if they say the printing has to be done by the 25th, which is before our 27th, it could go in with all the reports and stuff could go in for the preview of the report. And then after the 27th, we'd have to make sure that everything we don't have any mistakes in the final budget.
Exactly.
But then that would go into the final report as is.
Mhm.
And then it goes out to the printers for final printing to go to the constituents of the town.
I couldn't quite follow that, but let me just ask a question. Let's just use the 27th as the date this meeting happens. Paula, can you give everything else to the printer and say, and here's everything, here's the whole thing. The budget might change, like what's gonna end up being, right, is gonna be, I'm making this up, but like 2 or 3 lines in the budget will change and the overall budget will change. Could that be, when you're talking with the printer, can you talk about queuing up the entire thing, knowing there's like 2 or 3 pages that might have a couple different numbers?
Yeah, what we can do and what we've done with like Jessica with the ballot, we don't necessarily get the ballot when we send the report to the printers for the first time around. And so we hold a page. And so we can hold a page as long as we kind of know how many pages the budget is. We can hold those pages. They will incorporate it after that. But what they do is, like Catherine said, on the 25th of January, we send it to the printers without some stuff. They get the draft back to us immediately within like 2 days. We have to proof it within 2 days and get it back to them. And then anything that we have to put in there needs to be put in there at that time.
So that sounds to me like it's definitely snug, but that the 27th date that Gaye's hoping for the drop dead date, like might be viable.
Yeah, I would just have to let me check on the printers, what they're kind of, when they would like the first draft, that draft copy. And then we can definitely go from there.
Okay, great. So then we get to the public questions. And as I understand it, there are, my brain has taken the public questions and I think of 2 different kinds. One is people put together a public question, they walk around at the ball games, they walk around at the lasagna dinner, they walk around and they get people to sign. And then once they get whatever the required minimum number of signatures are, that kind of a petition has to be in by January 16th.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that kind of petition is not something that the town could discuss at this new meeting number 2. Because at that point, the signers, the people who signed it, signed specific language, and it can't be modified at this meeting number 2. It would be, I think, if off the table. But there's
Right,
another,
it'll be voted on by the Australian ballot, where.
right, it'll get voted on by Australia. It goes right to the ballot.
Right. Otherwise, because you would have voted on it at the regular town meeting, which is now.
Right.
replaced by the-
Right, and
So you
town
wouldn't have
meeting
the
now,
opportunity that they took at the town meeting to come up with this plan instead of just yes or no, right? It would have been a up-down vote.
It would have been an up-down vote there too. Yeah.
right? So if we hadn't have had it, to have it a floor vote, and it did, right, like there would have been no.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't be like, well, okay, we'll go to Australian ballot, but we want to do this town meeting reimagine thing, right? We wouldn't have that option.
We wouldn't have that option, no.
But there's a second
But
type
there's
of
a
public
second one.
question.
Yeah,
think they
I'm
was-
never really clear where those, those motions came from, whether it was petition or the select board. But
Oh.
but if we could just not go to those, because they would be complicated. If we could just imagine the public question about whether to grant an extension on a new 5-year exemption for the Historical Society. That came up a couple years ago. And it was, I believe, it was put in front of the voters by the select board because it regularly comes up. You'll have the community center, you'll have the Masons house. I mean, those nonprofit buildings have that question come up every 5 years. So it was the Historical Society's turn for that review. And on the floor, it was modified to be just 1 year of exemption because there was a level of angst that people had about the Historical Society. I don't remember the specifics. So that is, and that ended up being a fairly positive thing because then the next year that they came back, they had resolved whatever got under people's skin and people said, yes, you can have your 5-year exemption. So we're interested in, for those kinds of those public questions that come from the select board, can they be part of the conversation at meeting number 2?
Yes.
And
it
if
is a
so,
select board.
It
is a select board, since it comes from the select board, that could be discussed, yes.
Okay, because that will be subject to the same February 2nd warning date, right? Instead of the
Correct.
January 16th.
That is correct.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So my recollection is that came from up on the floor, that came from the select board, the 5-year review thing for the Historical Society. And on the floor, the motion was amended, the amendment was written to make it 1 year. Catherine, when you were saying, yes, that can happen at meeting number 2, are you saying that if there's something like that from the select board with a 5-year review and someone says, I want to make it a 1-year review, and the people in that room say, yep, we all vote for 1-year review, that now the language will be changed on the Australian ballot to say 1-year review? You're okay with that?
That's correct.
Okay,
Because
great.
it is a select board question that we do like,
But do we know, like, Gaye, have you talked to Jessica about like when the deadline for information on the ballot needs to be? Because usually it's like January.
Well, that's true.
Right after the 23rd. She needs to have everything ready that's why we do the town warning. We sign it around the 23rd through the 25th. She in turn sends that warning to the state to get everything on the ballot.
But because technically you're warning, the last, the first day for the last day for the select board to warn the town meeting, which is our town warning with all that stuff that we do, which includes the questions that Gaye's talking about.
For sure.
That is the 2nd of February.
Oh, has Jessica said anything about that, Gaye, about
I'll check with
ballots?
her. She wasn't at our last meeting, but she has been up
Okay.
at meetings prior to that.
Yeah, no, I can check with her as well. I'll just make sure. I mean, if it's the 2nd,
Yeah,
she must.
Cause I checked
know
with
that as well.
VLCT and I said, public question, and I went specifically, let's say,
Yeah.
public questions that were not petitioned. They said that can go up and the select board can put that on all the way up to the last day for the town meeting warning, for the warning. Which is February.
And the VLCT said that, sounds like implied that that's enough time for the ballots to get printed.
They just said this is what they do. I
Yeah,
mean, this
okay,
is
yeah.
the dates that they give Paula that she's worked at with her, our budget preparation as well. And they've confirmed that, of course, you cannot change a petitioned article. So, I mean, those are the questions have been answered.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
And those are
But-
those are statewide deadlines, right?
Yes.
So just thinking this through out loud, so if it's statewide, the deadline is February 2nd, and lots of towns have Australian ballots, there must be lots of Australian ballots that aren't finalized until February 2nd, so it should be
Yeah,
okay.
there could be, for sure, Peter. Yeah, I just don't know that. I mean, I'm just so used to the way that, you know, we've
done it
gone.
for 100 years.
Yeah, for that way, yeah.
Yeah,
She
okay.
usually gets it after the draft gets back to us for the annual town report is when we have that.
Okay,
There we go. Great.
great. Then I think that's all my questions.
But that sounds very exciting. We now have a date for both of them then. It looks
Well,
like.
we don't have a
okay.
date for meeting number 2 yet. We're meeting on September 25th, and that I want to be able to choose meeting number 2 then, so that on October 5th, we can say, this is the date. You know,
Yeah,
for
and it looks like the 27th is a good time. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I'll definitely just double check with the annual town report deadlines, and then I can get back to you and the select board and let them know, and then maybe that date can be finalized.
But as you
before-
said, you know, there was also the 25th, I think you said, or something like that, but it's within that time frame.
Yeah, okay.
And just, oh, sorry, Gay, go ahead, Gay.
Well, I just want to say something again, which is, we're inventing something new here. We're not going to get everything right the first time, and we just have to have a level of patience with all this, and we'll learn, and we'll do it different, you know, we'll tinker next time. And I think as long, you know, our group keeps saying that almost every meeting, like something will go wrong or something we will have guessed wrong, and we'll just adjust and we'll learn from it. So I think as long as we can go in with that frame of mind, I don't want to go in carelessly, and I think we're not doing that. But I also think things are going to surprise us, and we'll learn.
Yep, I think so, but at least there's this great amount of energy around it, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Super. Thank you very much for
Thanks, Gaye.
all your
Okay.
efforts, Gaye.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm trying to work out in my head, and I'm not sure if what if I think Jim Carroll's in there. I'm looking at the back of Jim Carroll's head. What if Jim Carroll stands up at meeting number 2 and says, I'd like to make a motion to tell the town they can't use salt anymore. Jim, I'm using you just because you were sitting in front of me. If anyone stands up and says, I want to make a motion to tell the town to not use salt anymore, and then everyone in the room right there votes and says, yes, we agree with that, does that then become an item on the Australian ballot, or is that not something that can
That's
happen?
a budget item.
That's a budget item. We would zero out that budget item.
Yeah, you would zero out that line item on
I
the
think that
budget.
you zero out that budget line if you just wanted it as a budget decision. But if what you're saying is, I would like to make a motion that we establish as a policy of the town of Jericho, never to ever use salt ever again. And, you know, then to me, that should be a warned public question.
Yeah, I don't think we could.
Want to think of that ahead of time.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd be able to do that at the old town meeting, right?
No,
You could do the budget item, yes, but you couldn't do like no more salt in Jericho, boom, because it'd be unwarned, people didn't know about it, right? Like, just like
That's
for
right.
select board.
But
Right,
couldn't you
right.
say, couldn't you stand up, weren't people standing up and making resolutions under other business, like town of Jericho stands against nuclear power or against the war in Iraq or
Yeah,
whatever?
that's other business, and it's it doesn't,
Non-binding.
it
Okay,
just,
so that wouldn't need to go to Australian ballot, that kind of general motion
No.
kind of thing. Okay,
No.
okay.
I
Okay, thank you.
believe that I believe that it is, what the group is saying is, if you know ahead of time that you have something that you really think you want to promote as a public question, then you should go through the work of getting the signatures.
yes.
If someone comes up with an idea, there could be someone who comes up with a really good idea at the town meeting, reimagined. at that point, I think we are talking about, the group could say yes, but that is not an official meeting. And that still is up to the select board as to whether the select board would want to put that forward as a select board initiated question, even if it was voted on at at that second meeting, is sort of how I've understood you all to say. That you would like to abide by the intent of the resolutions and follow the recommendations. But you would have that discretion if someone were to say, we want to paint town hall red, and we all voted for that, you would have the discretion not to put that on the ballot.
That is correct.
But just to, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being a dead horse and I apologize. I'm really trying to get my head around this whole thing and make sure I understand it. Let's say that someone had a reason for painting the town hall red, like there was an actual reason that made sense. And the people in that room said, yes, we should paint town hall red. I feel like the select board should be honoring that and saying, okay, like that's what these people in this room who showed up at town meeting said, that should go on the Australian ballot. Is that?
That is not required. That is going to be a vote of the select board on the following Thursday as to whether, I think the select board would have to initiate that. That's all.
Okay, okay.
Exactly right. Does that make sense to you, Peter?
Yes, sorry. Yep. Thank you.
I don't know, Jim, are you waiting or?
Could I ask a real world question?
Gotta be quick.
The town plan, the planning commission, and a lot of citizens have asked for a 5-member select board. It appears as though this select board is not willing to put that
It
forward.
has nothing, no.
No.
Or
can't do that.
would that plan-
You can't ask that question.
You can't.
We have no authority over
No.
making that change. We've explained that
I'm
to you
asking
15 times.
Gaye about this meeting as to how that question would fit into this meeting.
It can't.
It can't. It has to be 15% of the registered voters have
Yes,
to
if
do it.
15%, you're right. If 15% of the voters show up and they sign.
That's
on a piece of
what
paper,
gets
then
it on the
yes.
ballot. 15% registered voters. It is an Australian ballot question. It's in the charter.
It's a
that's
charter
in it.
change.
The charter is changed, correct?
No.
So-
the
The
charter-
charter doesn't authorize 5 members today?
Right,
Right.
Are you sure?
yes.
Okay, because that contradicts what I was told.
Can I speak up?
The charter already authorizes
Yeah,
5 members.
I'm sorry. You've been real patient and quiet and I actually appreciate that. I don't have the energy for this tonight.
But I think the question is, in terms of the meeting that we're planning for October 5th, what we would hope to come out of that meeting is for people to understand what the process is for questions like that, Jim. So if there are different kinds and different requirements for different kinds of public questions, we would like to be able to make sure people understand that, so that they would be able to then follow the right process and not learn later that they needed 15% instead of only 5%. So it's actually helpful to hear that question, because I didn't realize there was different thresholds.
There are going to be certain things that people would love to do in that meeting that we can't do statutorily. That's
No,
the
I
answer.
understand that, but
Yeah.
but it wouldn't happen at the meeting, of voting on that. But the kickoff meeting, that this first section of the kickoff meeting, we want to be able to inform people how, if you want to do something, here's how you do it. And
That's what you can do, absolutely, because there's 5%, 10%, and 20, and 15% for different questions.
so could I get that? It would be helpful just to, I want to put a flag on that for the groups to make sure they do that correctly. You guys will be there, so you can, this is the part that we had imagined Jessica would explain. Is she the right person to do that?
Jessica understands it very well. It's simply 5%. The select board gets to choose whether to put it on the ballot. 10%, the select board has no choice. And to make a 5-person select board, our town charter requires 15% of the voters to petition the select board. The select board has no power to make 5-person select board.
Okay, that's great. Well, I will, and am I right in saying that Jessica would be the right person to just explain that okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But 5% is for town business petitions. The 10% is things like If George Bush showed up in town, we could arrest him kind of thing. It's things that sort of apply to the town but aren't quite town business. But we usually, the select board years ago said, if people get 10% of the voters to say that, we'll put it on the warning. But the charter is very specific about the 15%.
Okay, great.
Because a lot of towns don't allow those kind of, off the cuff, those it sort of relates to the town, but not quite. Kind of, that's where they usually end up as another business where people just can talk about stuff.
Yep. Okay. That is really helpful, and I think I have what I need. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I mean, you guys are doing great work. There's no question about it.
Well, it's a terrific group of people, that's for sure. It's been fun. All right, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
And I'll connect
evening.
with you, I'll connect with you, Paula.
Yeah.
All right, next is, I have a few updates. Correct updates. The Jericho Energy Task Force and the Underhill Energy Committee had a EV event yesterday at Browns River from 3 to 6. And we had about 24 participants, which isn't bad. It was down a little bit because I think the first one, we had a beautiful day a couple of years ago and lots of cars, including, the first F-150 Lightning and Platinum model on the state, so that really got a lot of people. We had some nice Rivians yesterday. I mean, people did like to sit in the Rivian and check it out. But, it's reasonably successful. I mean, we had a great story. There was a couple who came to the very first EV event, checked out all the EVs, and that's what made the decision to buy their first EV.
That's cool.
So it's very cool. And so what we hope to do next year and start planning a lot earlier is have a much larger event, include e-bikes, as well as not just focus on transportation, but actually include the solar people and the heat pump folks and things like that. And then the Underhill folks want to bring in food trucks, bring in people. And so that's what's next. And then as I talked with Charlie, Green Mountain Transit was not able to make yesterday's RPC meeting. And so it's been rescheduled for October, but it was discussed that Green Mountain Transit there's been considerable pushback from particularly the underserved communities, and he is a member of the Green Mountain Transit representative, is a member of the Equity Advisory Committee, and they really gave him a lot of grief because these are people who really absolutely have to have the bus. And Essex bloodied him up pretty well too, as I understand it, because they don't want to lose the number 10 bus, because if they lose the number 10 route, they lose SSTA accessibility. And I've said, well, that's a question to ask here too, but we have the old age and disability aspect that also gets people rides. So at least there is that. But the important thing is, in the meantime, we should contact Green Mountain Transit with our concerns, because it is the most expensive route. It's $66 per person.
I like Charlie's idea of having them come to a meeting.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't even bother with us. They were just going to completely eliminate us, and they haven't even bothered to ask.
I know, we found out from residents saying.
Exactly.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But
How
anyway,
much was it per ride? Kevin?
$66.
$66
Yep.
per person?
Yes, we are the most expensive route. $66 per trip. Per person. That's what the numbers I got from GMT.
Wait, per person? Per person?
I think that's what they were saying. Because some of the others were like 15, anywhere from, $5, $3, $10, $15 per trip. And it's per person, is what they're saying. I will confirm that again, but it was $66 per trip.
That's a crazy number.
It's a crazy number. But we do have people here who absolutely depend on it.
Absolutely, yeah, no, I know.
So we have to, whether we ask for a micro transit, I mean, it should be
That's
a
what I
lot
was
cheaper.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, given we don't pay a huge amount per town, but it's enough that maybe a micro transit would, cover its cost with, or something like that. Anyway, it was very frustrating. So anyway, that's all I had for updates.
I don't have any updates, but I do have one comment for you, Paula, which was, Catherine. The Underhill people wanted to bring food trucks into the electric vehicle and expanding it to other things as well beyond electric vehicles. I think the Jericho Food Hub, which has been great with that pizza thing they did and the blueberry thing they did, that would be,
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a good blending with the work of Jet Force and that renewable, the electric vehicles.
Oh, that's good thought. I wonder about Food Hub then. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Got any updates, Paula?
No, I think I'm good.
Whoa. I did not get a chance to review the minutes, so I'm hoping Catherine did.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we're up to minutes and warrants. I found them to be fine.
All of them?
Wow.
All
Oh
of
my
them?
God. I don't think I've ever seen that. All right. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of September 5th, 2024 with no amendment.
Second on faith, fingers crossed.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then,
I have signed the warrants and Catherine can sign them. And with that, I will make a motion to go back into executive session for a reason, because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to the parties involved for reasons involving personnel and legal. And I'd like to invite Paula and Lindsay Holman, at least to the first part. Like, do I have to specify if there's gonna be, I don't know, if we have
think
stuff
so,
after
no,
her?
no.
there might be some
Yeah.
stuff, but
Okay. That's the end of my motion.
Peter,
Oh, sorry, I'm unmuted. Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.